From AATH, the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor, this is Laughbox, the podcast for laughter and humor professionals. Here's your host, Chip Lutz.
Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the podcast. This is Chip Lutz, unconventional leader. And today, like I've done before in prior episodes, I get the opportunity to talk to somebody that traverses both of my worlds, both my leadership world and my humor world. I get to talk to Courtney Clark. Now, what I like about Courtney is that not only does she know her shit as far as resilience goes, she's just an awesome person and super, super funny. I had the opportunity to watch just her blooper reel on and I was just like, oh my God, that is so hilarious. I would use that as my prime stuff right there. But I'm just so delighted that she's with me today. So welcome, Courtney, to the podcast. Big cheers to you.
Yay! Hi, Chip. I'm so glad to be here.
The pleasure is absolutely mine. Now, we've spent some time together at different conferences talking about things. But for my listeners, if you could tell them about who Courtney is.
Yes. So I come at resilience. I'm a recovering actress. That's what I thought I was going to do with my life. And as with most of us, my life did not turn out the way that I planned. So I decided to make that my career path, dealing with life's unexpected detours. I am a 3-time cancer survivor and a brain aneurysm survivor. And because of that, I got really passionate about this idea of resilience. How do we climb our way back up when life is just gnarly to us? And what I'm especially excited about, and what I've really been working on with some of my research, is this idea that you can be resilient without having to be like Pollyanna, super peppy all the time. That's not realistic.
Right.
And for a lot of people, that's really out of reach. That's not even their natural set point. And so they may think, oh, well, that's just not who I am. I can't be that way. And so that's what I became really passionate about, helping people of all personality styles, of all learning styles, find their path to, hey, I don't have to live in this hole just because something happened to me.
Well, and I want to get into, I knew you were a cancer survivor, but I didn't know you were a 3-time cancer survivor. I mean, that just floors me. Before we get into that, I just thought we'd get our conversational juices flowing. Now, where do you fall in your family tree? Youngest, oldest, middle child? Where are you?
I'm so oldest, obviously.
This changes my first question, because normally, like, I would ask you, like, what was the craziest thing your siblings ever did to you? But I'm going to ask you this right here, because I'm the youngest. So what was the craziest thing you ever did to your younger siblings that you're like, that later on you think you're going to have retribution for?
I was a phenomenal big sister. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Bullshit.
I am sure that my siblings will recall what that is. I was a pretty good rule follower. I think honestly the biggest annoyance, like my little brother was 3 years younger, and the biggest annoyance for him simply was that I was such a rule follower and that I was like the little parent in the family. So it wasn't any one big thing that I did. It was always like, you didn't do this. Mom told you have to do the dishes. You didn't clear the table. It was more like being like another mom to him. It was probably the biggest annoyance. It was no one big thing, just that all the little things.
Oh,
this is so funny. Is I remember the day he got bigger than me. He went off to like 3-day football practices right before his freshman year in high school. I swear to you, Chip, that morning he was smaller than me. I could sit on him to make him do his chores and things. And like he came home that afternoon and I went and I looked at him and then I looked another 6 inches higher. Like my eyes I was all of a sudden like looking directly at his chest, where I swear to you his eyes had been that morning.
That is so funny, because that never happened to me. I mean, I'm the youngest, but everybody in my family is about the same size. I have a couple brothers that are taller than I am, but that never really happened to me as the youngest child. And it's funny that you are so benign on, what you did to your younger siblings, because I can list. I have a list of things that my brothers did to me, like, "Hey, Chipper, come here. Let me tell you a secret," and they'd spit in my ear, or or, get down the ground, do the big long spit thing, or, secretly wipe boogers on my back. I mean, there's a whole list of things that they did to me. And I know that, your list is probably a little more sordid. You just don't want to share it.
I swear it's not. I'll text my brother right now. We'll see if we get an answer.
That's hilarious.
No, I'm not kidding. I'm texting him right now. If I get an answer, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Awesome. I'm dying to know, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
No, you're pretty young. I mean, like I said, I knew about you being a cancer survivor, but 3 times. I mean, you've got to find ways to bounce back from that. I mean, and I don't want to dig deep and open up, huge, wounds or anything, but what was that like? That's just crazy for being as young as you are.
Yeah. So, it's really interesting when you get cancer at such a young age, and to get cancer as a young adult, I then found we're this weird generation. Most people are diagnosed, of course, with cancer at an older adult population. Young adults, we fall in between that typical pediatric cancer patient and the geriatric cancer patient. Mm-hmm. And nobody really gets what you're going through. It's such a unique time to have cancer, and I felt really alone. I had a close friend at the time, and she just didn't know how to treat me, and she started coming up with all these illnesses that she had, and I don't know if she was trying to sympathize, but she kept going on and on about maybe trying to get pregnant. Meanwhile, my own fertility was being threatened. Nobody really knows how to deal with you. My brother just texted back, by the way, and he says the worst thing I ever did was tell him to shut up. I told you I was such a good big sister.
That is so sad.
You heard it. Gerald Clark says.
Well, I'll tell you what. Tell him that he needs an older brother, and I'll be happy to do that for him.
Right. Well, you know what he reminds me of? This is what a kind and innocent person I was, even before the cancer, is that when he's 3 years younger, when we were little, I apparently ran to my mom and I said, "Mom, Gerald called me a shut up." I didn't even understand the construct of the sentence, shut up. I said, "Gerald called me a shut up."
Oh, that's hilarious.
My whole life. I didn't even know as the 3-year older sister. Yeah. So at 26, diagnosed with cancer, it totally knocked me back. I was a newlywed. I was married to my now ex-husband at the time. And a lot of people have faced that same experience because we didn't have decades of marriage to fall back on.
Right.
And now, not to say that there weren't other problems in the marriage, but I think that really hastened our decline because we didn't know how to be with each other, and he didn't know how to be a good support system. To me, I think he was trying the best that he could, but we did not have a foundation to move forward from. And then you're 26. I was 26, single. I had big old gnarly scars. Probably couldn't have children. And recently divorced, all before my 27th birthday.
Wow.
And I'm trying to date again. So, yeah, it did a number on my self-esteem and the way I saw myself. But at the same time, it's too simplistic to say that it was a gift, right? Yeah. I hear people say that all the time. I'm sure you do as well. And I can't say that it's quite that easy.
Right.
Because I wouldn't choose it. Right. I used to joke, if cancer's a gift, can I have the receipt to return it, please?
No shit. Yeah. Sorry for interrupting there, but I would agree with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's overly simplified. That said, as with many things, there were some great things that came out of it. I always say every beauty has a beast and vice versa. Right? Just like every quality that each one of us has that's amazing and it's gotten us to where we are today, or every experience that we've had, it all has a shadow side. Like me being the bossy big sister. Well, I'm confident and I love to, help people and give advice, but in the wrong situation or with somebody who's not interested, that's bossy.
Yeah.
So, every beauty has a beast. And in this case, every beast can have a beauty too. So I am really grateful that from going through that experience, I was able to get out of a marriage that wasn't for me. And it really helped set me on my path. I was already in the nonprofit world, but then I started working for a nonprofit for young adults with cancer. And that I just was so passionate about doing that kind of work.
I just want to tell you that if we go no further in this conversation, absolutely no further in this conversation, that what you just said right there, that every beauty has a beast, is like a mic dropper for me. Like, I had never really thought about things like that, we all have these things that are fantastic in our lives, but each one of those might have a little bit of a dark side as well. And, I've never thought about the duplicity of some of those, things in my life before. So, I mean, that's something that I'm going to go to bed tonight thinking about, like, oh man, what is the beast to that?
Yeah. See, now you're not going to go to bed tonight. You're going to be up all night long sending me nasty emails because you can't sleep.
No, I can always sleep. Yeah, just ask my wife. As soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm out.
I'm a sleeper too.
Yeah, it drives her crazy. She's like, I don't understand it. As soon as your head hits the pillow, you're out. I'm like, I got a clean conscience. That's why. I don't know what you're doing, but I've got a clean conscience.
Okay. We not ponder this in the shower then.
So
I think that's very true, that we always have to be aware that whatever our strongest trait is, that amazing thing that has gotten us where we are in life, it can be overused or used with the wrong person.
Yeah,
and we have to be aware of that.
That is awesome. I could end this right now, would be good, but I know you have so much more to share. So, thinking about the whole world of resilience, I mean, obviously you got to be able to, you go through something like that. I mean, divorce. I mean, we all go through different things in life. I mean, you have illnesses, like you said, you divorced. I mean, you had all these things happen at once. I mean, you have to find some strategies that can, help you like push forward. I mean, otherwise we sit in this mire of crap. So, in your journey like that, what are some of the things that, you learned in the process of all that?
So one of the first things that I learned and that I talk about in some of my presentations is letting go of this idea of the plan, right? Like maybe it's because I'm an oldest child, but so many of us who are high achievers, especially those type A types, I'm like type A minus. But we've got this plan, right? This idea, and we're told that you're going to be successful if you have a plan and you're working towards it and you put all your focus towards it. And so many of us have this, we've dreamed up this idea of what our life is supposed to look like. And if we work hard and we're a good person, then we're going to get those things. Mm-hmm. And for many people, it works out that way until it doesn't. And then for some of us, starting at a fairly early age, like for me, it's just like, nope. And you keep hitting the wall. Yeah. And I actually kind of think it was great that I hit that wall early, because I came to expect that things aren't going to go according to my plan. And so now when they don't, I'm able to take it a little less personally, and I'm not rocked on my heels back for quite so long as people that I know where, oh gosh, it happens, after 40, and it's like, oh wait, things were rolling along so great. What happened now?
Yeah.
So this idea of letting go of the plan. And so many people who've heard me talk about that are like, I'm trying to let go of the plan, but the plan won't let go of me. We can say that, oh, okay, I'll just, I get it. Like, it's not my plan. Sometimes if for a person who's really spiritual, like, okay, not my plan, but God's plan. But it's harder than we think.
Yeah.
To let go of this idea that if we do what we're supposed to, if we're a good, hardworking person, that things are just going to line up for us. So that was a real key picture that I painted in my brain. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's not that simple.
Well, it's kind of funny you say that. We are kind of. Are you getting the feedback I'm getting?
No, I don't hear anything.
Oh, I hear myself. Oh, there we go. It's just kind of weird. All right, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. We're all still good. So, but we within our society, we are kind of like geared towards this is this is the plan. You graduate, you go to college, you get married. These are the things, and that sometimes, like you said, especially if we're type A or A minus, like you said, it can be difficult if things don't go according to that plan, and we've got to be able to pivot here and there.
Yeah.
They let me go of the plan. I think that's an important thing you just said. Is it's difficult for us to let go of that.
Yeah, we're an achievement, success-driven society, and I think so often we correlate success with hard work.
Mm-hmm.
If you're working hard, ultimately you're going to get what you're working towards, and that's not always 100% true.
No,
it's just not. But that's another issue that comes into play. Is we look at other people and we think other people have it easy. We think other people have been given some set of instructions that we haven't gotten.
Right.
Like everybody else has the directions, and you're the only one fumbling through. And we play that.
Everybody else has something awesome in their life, and I got shit.
Right. Everybody else has somebody whispering in their ear, being like, "Okay, now's the time to ask for a raise. Turn right here." It looks like that from the outside because we play the comparison game, and gosh, social media sure as heck has not helped that, because everybody looks like they're not struggling. I joke, like, on social media, you only see people post like the really awesome stuff,
right,
or they post the like weird 2 a.m., kind of like I need help sort of strange cry for help stuff.
I'm so sad, but they won't tell you why.
Yeah, like the vague booking.
The vague. Oh, please tell me why you're so sad, please.
Right. There's that, and then you don't really know how to help them. So we have this like fake sense of how everybody else is coping. And then we compare, and then we think we're the only one who's struggling. We're the only one who doesn't have the directions. And one of the things that I sometimes will say, depending on the audience, I like to tell people I like to reveal just how deeply I struggled, because when I was first diagnosed with cancer, anybody who's been through this will probably have a similar experience. People would go, "Oh, you're so strong." And it's like, thank you. You don't really know what to say. So
right.
Just say thank you. And then, 2 years later, I'm diagnosed with cancer again. "Oh my gosh, you're so strong." Thank you. And then I had the brain surgery. Mm-hmm. And it was truly the most painful experience of my life. I was hallucinating for days. I couldn't walk. It was truly the depths of despair. And at one point I looked up at my newlywed husband. We had been married for less than a year. And I just said, "I wish I would have never had this surgery. I should have just let the aneurysm rupture so that I could have just died in peace."
Oh.
And I didn't talk about that after it happened for a while, because it's kind of embarrassing, because I know how lucky I am to be alive. Mm-hmm. Many times over, in fact. And so I thought, gosh, that's embarrassing. I shouldn't share that. And then what I realized is, if those of us who've been in the pit just keep saying thank you when somebody says you're so strong, then, because we don't know what else to say, and you're like, I'm pretty sure they don't want to hear all of it, but I feel like it's important to tell people, because I don't want anybody else ever thinking, well, Courtney's so strong, Chip's so strong, my friend Maria is so strong, I must be weak because I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
And so now I kind of feel like I have a responsibility to share just how dark that time was for me, so that other people understand the face of resilience.
Well,
it does not look like just bouncing up the next day like, cool, that's over, I feel great.
Well, I think you bring up something really important there in that a lot of times, I mean, in all suffering is relative. I mean that, and I'm not negating, what you were going through. I'm just like, everybody has different things that they go through, but a lot of times they think they're alone. They think that if they show their vulnerability that, they're weak or there's something's wrong with them. And that the fact that you're, it really, when you show that vulnerability to me, it shows, an inner strength that, you went through it. And if people see that, they're like, oh, well, they can gain strength themselves.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly right. And I think, there's an element to, like, we don't want to share it because, again, I know for me, there's this idea of the noble suffering, right? Like we think when somebody has cancer, for example, and we say, oh my gosh, they're so strong, you kind of don't want to burst somebody's bubble and say, actually, I'm really not. Your perception may be that I'm strong, but all I'm really doing is putting one foot in front of the other every day because I don't have a choice.
Right.
Because I'm still living, and so I'm just waking up in the morning. So we've romanticized, I think, this idea of this heroic, this noble suffering, and it makes it so that when we're the one suffering and it's not noble and it's not heroic and we just want to cry and give up, we think we must be the only one feeling that way because we looked at it from the outside and we thought, wow, oh man, that person's handling that so gracefully.
I absolutely love
mystify that.
I absolutely love the way you put that on how we romanticize that, because honestly, that's what we see on media all the time. TV, sitcoms, whatever. Oh, they made it through, and it's nice. However, there are some days when you're going through shit. It's just shit, and you don't. You want to tell somebody, but I really can't say something. So I love the fact that, you brought that out. That is awesome.
It's sometimes it's just ugly.
It absolutely is. Absolutely.
It's very ugly. It's very humbling when your newlywed husband has to take you to the bathroom and wipe your booty. Like, it's just, there's nothing romantic about it. And you're a child all over again. And it's just really humbling.
I can only imagine. My wife it didn't have to wipe mine, but I did tell her she is very klutzy, and I tell her when she gets older that when she can't take care of herself, I'm going to do her makeup. And so when the kids come over, they're going to be like, "Why does Gwen look surprised all the time?" Because I'm going to draw her eyebrows really big. Or she'll come over like, oh, Gwen looks really cross today because I'm gonna put her eyebrows in a down thing. So anyway,
I will not let you do that. I'm gonna send you some YouTube videos.
No, I will do that because it'll be funny to me, and that's just me. We were laughing about it when I was saying that. So kudos to you for sharing some of that stuff, because I think it's important for people to hear that there's We put this false sense that there's nobility in suffering, but sometimes you just need to share that stuff with people. So, I appreciate you. I don't think
it's fair for anybody to be in that position and think everybody else must be handling this with more grace than me.
Yeah.
So.
We'll shift a little bit and look at some of the other keys that you share with people on bouncing back. I mean, obviously, I'm a firm believer that emotions are what they are. What you feel is what you feel. They're neither good or bad. Sometimes you've got to go through the shit and feel that. Sometimes, you got to make a choice to do something different. So, what are some of the things when you go out and, I've seen you, I've never seen you in person, unfortunately. Hopefully someday I do. But I mean, I have when we're at conferences, but never on stage. But
do my thing.
I've never seen you do your thing, and hopefully I can sometime. But I've seen some of your stuff on video, and it's so so compelling and so engaging. I know that the people in the audiences get so much from what you share. I mean, so what are some of the things that you share with people on helping them kind of like get through that murk, get through that mire, and and bounce back?
So I talk a lot about shifting your perspective. And how do we talked a little bit about avoiding the comparisons And how do we then focus on the future? That's a lot of the research that I've done in resilience talks about that future orientation. And having that future orientation is so powerful. When you think about what psychologists say about people who've been through trauma, they talk about how when you've been through trauma, the past is always present. That's like one of the key definitions of someone who's been traumatized. The idea that the past is always present. So my definition of resilience is someone for whom the future is always present. This idea that if you can always keep that little nugget in your mind of, I am moving towards something. Again, some people will call it like, this too shall pass. That is such powerful fuel in your engine. And some of the original research done on this, they were talking about like adverse childhood experiences, or what they call ACEs. And I just love that research because it's what my son embodies, that research. So my husband and I adopted a teenager. I can't make babies thanks to the cancer. It's not a good idea. But my husband and I adopted a teenager. He's now 24. So I'm the 38-year-old mom of a 24-year-old. Woo, it's a boy. And yeah, well, again, it's one of those things where you may make this plan all you want, but my kid had already been born. He'd been born when I was in junior high, or I guess high school. And he was waiting for me to find him. And he is such a perfect representation of this idea of being future oriented, because his whole life, he has done this amazing job of setting goals and reaching for them, and just always being able to move the bar just far enough that he's not discouraged, right? So it's not like, I'm going, someday I'm going to perform on stage in front of 100,000 people. Like, that may be an ultimate goal, but he always has a goal that's just far enough in advance. For the longest time, of course, it was he was going to go to college. Then it was, I'm going to graduate from college and I'm going to move to LA. And then I'm going to start my own music business. And, he's done all of these things. And being able to focus on the future it's almost like fairy dust in terms of its ability to keep you moving out of a difficult situation. They found when they were talking to these kids in tough situations, there are of course lots of things that are called protective factors, like having one trusted adult, right? We know relationships with people, that absolutely contributes to our ability to crawl back out of the pit. That's a huge thing. But even more than other people in their life to rely on, this future orientation, those kids who didn't get caught up in the here and now, the today, the what I don't have, but had something that they were looking forward to, those were the kids who made it.
Interesting. Very interesting. It's kind of like, looking strategic, but acting tactically.
Yes.
But, you've got the big picture on there, but I've got these little things that are going to build up to that. And I'm a firm believer that life always looks better when you got something on the calendar.
Ooh, yeah, exactly.
It always looks better, I can be in the murk and the mire today, but it's always going to look better if I got something coming up. I got, well, today's kind of shitty, but I got something coming up. It's something on the calendar. Yay.
Exactly. Well, there is scientific research behind why that works. And, it's funny too, like when you talk about, you were talking about like, how'd you put it? Acting strategically.
Thinking strategically, acting tactically.
Yeah, strategically, acting tactically. Kind of that big picture, the in the moment and the future stuff. I always think of it when I was learning about coping skills, that there is problem-focused coping and emotion-focused coping, right? And some people are more likely to use one or the other. It can be a personality style thing, but the heartiest among us can use both, right? And the more often you can use both problem-focused coping, so that's like that tactical, now in the moment, right? I'm gonna problem solve this. But then emotionally, okay, what am I gonna do long term? How am I going to deal with my emotions around all of this? And that future orientation That's that hope piece. So when you add those two together, that's when you're really strong.
Nice. Very, very Viktor Frankl-ish of you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I don't know if Franklish is really a word. I just had
he would probably love that.
He probably would. Absolutely. That's a great way, a great first step. What are some other things that, because I know that you've got a full repertoire of things that you share, and I want to get some cores that can help people bounce back. So I think that in today's society, and we're all dealing with different things. Like I said, everybody's suffering is relative. That's what I'm going through, I might think is horrible, but you might it's really not all that bad. But what are some other things that, help people, make that shift?
Well, what you said about it being relative, one of the things that I always recommend that people do is find perspective. And the top thing that I recommend is for people to go and volunteer. It's interesting though. So I did a lot of research for my first book, which was kind of born out of my prior career. I used to work in the nonprofit world. And so I got really interested in this idea because I had seen a lot of people who had gone through a trauma and then wanted to come volunteer, give back, get involved. So I really got curious, why did that happen? And so I started doing some research that became my first book, The Giving Prescription. Mm-hmm. And in The Giving Prescription, one of the things that I talk about is why does giving and volunteering help us get perspective? And interestingly, it doesn't work for the reasons that you think that it does. Because a lot of people, you might assume that it works because you're making what's called a downward comparison. Where, okay, well, at least I don't have it as bad as this person. Mm-hmm. But it's actually not why it works. Sorry if you can hear my dogs wrestling in the background. I have a new puppy. So a downward comparison is when you take a look at somebody and you say, well, at least I don't have it as bad as that person has it. Mm-hmm. That's not why volunteering actually works. The reason volunteering works is because it helps boost your personal power. That when you give back to someone else, you realize no matter how low you are, that you actually have the power to impact someone's life. Just like I always joke, we're so good at seeing things in other people's lives. Like you can look at your friend and be like, oh my God, she's making the same mistake over again. We're always so good at seeing other people's stuff, better than we are our own. So when we help someone else, we see our own personal power come through to help better their life. Mm-hmm. And it's somehow so much easier than if we were trying to use our personal power to help our own life.
Right.
Because we sometimes feel diminished, right? When we're going through something difficult, we're not feeling resilient. We're feeling really challenged. We just may feel like that personal power is completely depleted. But then when we try to use it on someone else's behalf, it's somehow easier. So that's why I always recommend volunteering specifically. Helping anyone works. I, of course, love the formal structure that comes with volunteering, particularly at a nonprofit. But really, anytime you can help someone, you're going to reap the same benefit. But it's not the downward comparison. At least I don't have it as bad as this person.
Right.
Because when I was volunteering, there were times that I was volunteering in the middle of my diagnosis where you could argue I had it worse than some of the people I was helping.
Right.
And yet it still really gave me this stamina because it was like, oh, well, I'm not helpless. Look what I'm doing. I'm making this person's life better, and I'm making this, and look, I've made this person smile. I've completely brightened their day. And then all of a sudden you don't feel powerless and helpless anymore.
Yeah, I completely.
And that's a ball that once it starts rolling downhill, you're like, hey, I'm not powerless and helpless at all.
Right. Well, two things on that. One, I always feel better when I watch Maury Povich, because I'm not on there wondering who my baby's daddy is. Two, Yeah, after my divorce, I mean, I was like, I was in a really dark place, and it was like I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't, I went out and worked, but it's still. But what made a big shift for me was doing what you just said. Is that I started volunteering with my church with the community meal and serving, food to people, and it was just one of those things that I was just like, it just made a big difference for me on giving back. So
it's
yeah.
kind of magic. I got really excited about doing that research for the giving prescription, and it's kind of funny. We were just talking about like emotion focused coping and versus problem focused coping. When I was writing the book, my publishers initially didn't like when I was writing some of the benefits, and I was talking about personal power. I was talking about perspective and all the things that you get out of volunteering that everyone gets, but that particularly help those of us who are volunteering after we've been through some kind of a challenge or a trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I wrote is, look, there are tangible, practical benefits to volunteering, like getting out of the house or networking. And they said, we don't really like that. We think we should just kind of keep it to the more emotional, non-tangible stuff. And I said, I'm going to fight you on that, because I think you don't realize that sometimes getting out of the house when you've been through something traumatic is hugely important.
Yes.
I mean, that feeds the emotional piece of it. And I fought and I kept it in there. Or even like the personal interaction that you get when you're volunteering, it can help you build up your job skills. As a young adult with cancer, I was very lucky that I didn't lose my job, but a lot of people who have faced that, again, when you're a little younger, you haven't been at your job, you don't have a lot of seniority, and then you get fired because you're sick and you can't show up to work all the time. And so then if you're volunteering, it has practical benefits like helping you maybe network or helping you develop some skills that you need to develop to go back out in the job market. And I think that's a really critical piece that can't be forgotten. There are so many benefits for all of us, anybody, to volunteering. But specifically if you've been through something tough, I get it, because there are days when you don't want to leave your house and you don't want to
talk to anybody. You don't want to do nothing. Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. But I'm telling you, helping somebody else, volunteering, there's a magic there that it can't totally be explained, but you just got to go try it.
Now, thinking about your emotional well-being through all of that, was there ever a time that like finding something to laugh about or humor helped you kind of like rebound a little bit?
Absolutely. So I had the really good fortune of finding this organization called Planet Cancer. They don't completely exist. They were absorbed into Livestrong, the organization. But I found this group, and then I started working for them. And they had this very irreverent take on dealing with cancer. So we had these T-shirts that was like, Planet Cancer, we've done drugs Keith Richards never heard of. Or, you like that one, huh?
Yeah, that was awesome.
I had cancer and all I got was this stupid T-shirt. And, that was the place where you could absolutely tell funny stories. We had like, the top 10 things you can do with your testicle that's been removed. Or, like all these things that everybody else would go, oh, you shouldn't joke about that kind of thing. But that's where I can tell the story of the very first time I ever had to have a CT scan. And I'm 26 years old. I'm recently divorced. So, I'm like newly single, young. I go to the hospital. Not one of the female nurses that I saw all day long who was preparing me for all these exams, nobody explained to me, P.S., when they open the iodine drip for the CT scan, you're going to feel like you've wet yourself. No, they left that for the hot, young male nurse who had to look me dead in the eye and discuss self-urination with me. Just being like, oh, why couldn't they have such a woman in the town? Why did they have to send the one hot male nurse?
That's so funny because I had the exact reverse thing when I had mine. Is that it was a young, attractive, female that was telling me, "Well, it's going to feel like you're peeing yourself," and I was like, when it happened, I was like, "Oh, you're right on that. It does feel. It feels exactly like that." Yeah.
I mean, once you know that you're not, it's not entirely unenjoyable, but you have to be aware that that's not what's happening.
It's not completely unenjoyable. Oh, sorry. Oh,
the truth, though. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. But you just, it's those moments where you could just want to pull the covers over your head.
Yeah.
And you have to find the people that you can chuckle with about that.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like, you have to find the humor, and that's one thing too. But everything's funnier when it's shared.
Right.
So you can try all you want to find humor, but if you don't have anybody else who can enjoy that humor with you, you probably won't be laughing very long. Whereas if you can then share it with someone, you can get years of laughter out of one of those moments.
Absolutely. I mean, well, I'm my own best party favor, so I laugh at things that are just funny to me, and I can't really share them with anybody. But they are. If I can find somebody to share it with, it's even funnier.
Yes, agreed. If you may just be able to be a self-perpetuating humor machine, but for me, I'll get like a little under my breath chuckle, but it's so much better if I can share it with somebody who just gets it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now we're coming up on times, but I want to make sure that, for like, we encapsulate some of the things that we've been talking about. So if, somebody is, in a dark place, going through something, what are your 3 best tips for, pushing through to the other side?
My 3 best tips are to really once and for all let go of the plan, because whatever's coming is better than whatever you had planned on. Right now may not be better. Right now may be significantly worse. But whatever is coming is better than whatever you thought you were steering yourself towards. So let go of the plan is number 1. Mm-hmm. I think number 2 is try to find that perspective. Help somebody else regain your perspective. And then number 3 is, find that balance between balancing your emotions and what are the concrete steps you can take, that balance between emotion focused and problem focused coping. Find things that you can do and ways that you can feel better. And when you start to do that, that's what's going to rebuild your personal power and help you get that fuel back in your engine. We don't have to feel powerless. And so every little tiny step that you take is like a little self-perpetuating snowball that rolls down the hill, and it starts to get faster and faster and bigger as it rolls.
Wow. You are so smart and give me so much stuff to think about. I mean, honestly, I was like, and nicely that even though I've known you for several years, I've learned so much more about, who you are and what you do. It's been a fantastic time for me, the time we spent, talking today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I've loved it.
Now, if people want to find you after today, where do they go?
So you can find me online at CourtneyClark.com, CourtneyClark.com. Or give me a ring, 512-494-4276. I answer my phone.
That's even more awesome. Now, if we were out drinking and we had I'd give you a couple drunk dares because I'm a sailor. That's what I do. Cool. But since we're not, I'm just going to ask you a few random questions for my overstuffed Would You Rather book. Are you game, Courtney?
I'm totally game. I have my mango sparkling water. I'm not sure if that counts.
It does count. I'm actually, because it's early in the day, I'm drinking coffee, so we're all good.
Fair enough.
All right, so I'm just going to, and these are random. I just open with a book. I'm not saying they're going to be politically correct. I'm just saying
random.
They are the way they are. All right. Would you rather, Courtney, laugh when you should cry and cry when you should laugh, or never able to do either?
Oh, for sure. Laugh when I should cry and cry when I should laugh. We were just talking about that.
Yeah, that was a little too easy. I see it's stupid random questions. I'd rather have fun something a little more.
Not random.
Something a little. Okay.
Okay.
Here's the next question, Courtney. Would you rather on a first date wear a t-shirt that says "I'm with stupid" or a t-shirt that asks "Who cut the cheese"?
I'm gonna go "I'm with stupid" because I feel like to be with me, you got to have a strong sense of self anyway. My husband is just about the strongest, most awesome dude in the whole world, and so might as well get him learning early that I'm gonna tease him.
That's so sweet.
Yeah,
That is. I love to hear that stuff. So, all right, last question, Courtney.
Stupid in love with each other. It's kind of.
Would you rather? Last question. Would you rather bite the head off a live gopher or thoroughly lick a cat's butt?
Oh, ugh. I gotta have to go with cat butt.
Really? Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's got to be the cat butt. I can't kill an animal, but I can brush my teeth after. So.
Oh, awesome. Well, hey, my friend, I certainly appreciate you spending the time with me today. I got a lot from our conversation. I know that my listeners will too.
Excellent.
And I'll encourage anybody to go to Courtney's website, bring her in to speak. I mean, honest to God, she is hilarious and she has great content. So thanks again, my friend.
Thanks, Chip. Have a good one.
You too.
This is Laughbox, the podcast for laughter and humor professionals. Laughbox is made possible by a grant from the National Speakers Foundation and is brought to you by AATH, the Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor. Find out more at aath.org. Be sure to review Laughbox on iTunes. For show notes and more information about today's conversation, visit laughbox.aath.org.